We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC, and it is Florida State last regular game of the season right here in 2024. And of course, I'm going to break it down right here. Florida State preview and prediction right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. And some more recruiting news, the commitment of running back Byron Louis as he flips from Florida State to Florida. And also in this episode, we'll check in and bring you the beautiful images of last week's win over Ole Miss and some more talk with another edition of Focused on the Gators with Alex Shepard. So a lot to get into, of course. Going to try and make this a little bit quicker for you guys. I know you might be traveling during the holidays. Happy Thanksgiving out there. Thank you all for listening and checking out Gators Breakdown. Whether you listen, whether you watch, it doesn't matter. Whether you're a Gators Breakdown Plus member, all that good stuff. One more time, just thank you so much. It is the season for that. And I thank each and every one of you for checking out and all the interaction that goes along with it right here on Gators Breakdown. So let's get right into it. Gators going up against the 2-9 Florida State Seminoles, coming off their second win of the season last week versus Charleston Southern. And it's just not been a pretty season for the Seminoles. And it started off right away, coming off last year, not making the college football playoff, getting beat down by Georgia in the Orange Bowl. And then don't think we saw this coming. We saw a drop-off. I don't know if we saw this kind of drop-off. 2-9 are the Seminoles because of their season right quick. They had that week 0 game against Georgia Tech where they scored 21 points, lost 24-21. That 21 points, by the way, is their highest point total versus FBS opponents all season long. That was in the opener. They haven't scored that much the rest of the season. And then they followed that up. First home game. Remember, the Georgia Tech game was in Ireland, I believe. Then they return home. Boston College. They lose that game 28-13. And then they play Memphis. Okay, maybe a chance to get back on the right track. Nope. 20-12. They lose to Mike Norvell's ex-team, his former team that he left Florida State for. Memphis beats Florida State 20-12. Then they get their first win. Cal is their first win where they win 14-9. And then the losing streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. They lose to SMU 42-16 at SMU. Then they host Clemson, lose 29-13, somewhat respectable given how their season had been up to that point. And then they lose 23-16 to Duke at Duke, 36-14 at Miami. Lose 35-11 to North Carolina, who just fired Mac Brown. And then lose 52-3 at Notre Dame. And then they get Charleston Southern last week where they finally get their second win of the season, 41-7. Charleston Southern, a 1-9, I believe, going into that game in the FCS. So a terrible team there. And now that sets up the game versus the Gators. So interesting storyline, freshman versus freshman. That quarterback, DJ Lagway, goes against FSU's Luke Kromenhoek. Interesting angle there when you look at it, though. So, all right, let's take a look at some stats. And this just lets you really know and lets you see just how bad it has been for Florida State and these stats. It's not pretty whatsoever. You see a bunch of hundreds. You see a bunch of 130s, all that. Total offense, they're 131st in the country. Scoring offense, they're 131st there as well. Their total offense, 273 yards a game. Florida's 100 yards more than that when you want to compare. Florida's still 80th overall in total offense, but nowhere near as bad as Florida State with 273. Of course, the Florida, had third-string quarterback. I mean, FSU had quarterback carousel too. Remember, DJ Uyongale started the season. Now they're on their third string. Brock Glenn played some games for Florida State as well. Now they're on their third quarterback. Part of that's because of DJ's Uyongale's injury, but they probably had to do something at quarterback anyway. He wasn't getting it done. Florida, just injuries, and it's had to, had those games with Aiden Warner where a lot of these stats are. Florida would be a much higher. Put it that way. We know that if DJ Lagway was healthy playing throughout the year. a bit more. But rushing offense for Florida State, 129th in the country. Passing offense, 115th. When you look at rushing, 89 yards a game. Passing offense, 184 yards a game. They're 129th in passing efficiency. Their touchdown to interception ratio is 125th in the country. 11 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Not great at all. You look at Florida, their passing efficiency, 37th in the country. But, you see those stats for Florida State. One of the nation's worst offenses. And Florida's defense, nothing to write home about as far as overall stats go. As we know, very opportunistic the last couple of weeks. 103rd in total defense. Nobody's going to scream from their mountaintops about that. But the scoring defense, it doesn't translate. Total defense, they're giving up yardage, but of course, as we know, not giving up the points. Especially in the last couple of games. 25.5 for Florida. That's 74th in the country. Florida's rushing defense tied for 87th. Passing defense tied for 107th in the country there. So it's just not very good matchup for Florida State. Keeping it going with their offense versus Florida's defense. Florida's, of course, with the sacks now. Tied for 23rd in the country, guys. With sacks is Florida with a 2.7 sacks a game, 30 for the season now for the Gators. And tackles for loss, tied for 40th now are the Gators. Them and Florida State both averaging about 6 tackles for loss. And, of course, Florida really, really hitting that home. I think it was, what did I say in the last episode of Gators Breakdown? 20 tackles for loss in the last 2 games? There for the Gator defense. Florida State's defense, not much better. We'll get into it. They're 88th in total defense, 86th in scoring defense. Total defense, they give up 387.5 yards per game. Scoring defense, giving up 27.7 points per game. 106 in rushing defense. Remember, that defensive line was supposed to be very, very stout for Florida State. And they do some good things, mainly in pass defense. They help out, in the pass rush and creating some pressure. They're 49th in passing defense overall, or the Seminoles, giving up 207.5 yards per game. So there's your comparison. Right there, Florida State, just not great there for the Seminoles. As I mentioned, Luke Kromenhoek, freshman, made his first collegiate start in last week's win. He was 13 of 20 for 209 yards with 3 touchdowns while adding 31 rushing yards. You will have to keep an eye on his leg. If you've watched Florida State, you've seen that from Kromenhoek. He's the only true freshman in FSU history to pass for 3 touchdowns in his first start. And his 71-yard touchdown to Ja'Kai Douglas on the first play of the second half is the second longest completion by a true freshman in program history and longest by an FSU true freshman since 1976. Keep in mind, they played a terrible, terrible, terrible Charleston Southern team. Kromenhoek made his collegiate debut against Duke earlier this year, completing 3 passes for 19 yards. That's the first time we saw him. And at Miami, Kromenhoek completed 6 passes for 61 yards, including a career-long 29-yarder to Douglas. On the ground, in that game against the Hurricanes, Kromenhoek ran for 71 yards. So FSU's first touchdown drive against the Hurricanes, he had runs of 12 yards, 14 yards, and that 14-yarder was a 3rd and 10. Then everybody kind of remembers the 42-yarder was a short yardage situation. It's 4th and 1. And one of the weirdest, it was a pure quarterback sneak and somehow finds his way through there and runs for 42 yards there. So that 42-yard run, guys, that's FSU's longest run of the season. That's not coming from a running back. And as I said, it was just a weird situation where it really was a quarterback sneak and somehow he finds his way through there. So overall, Kromenhoek is only completing about 52% of his passes, 12.5 yards per completion, 6.5 yards per attempt. So not much down the field there. 5th-year Noles, Ja'Kai Douglas leads Florida State with 28 catches, 486 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. Caught a 71-yard touchdown in that first play after halftime against Charleston Southern last week. He leads FSU's active roster with 9 career touchdown catches. In FSU's only FBS win against Cal, Douglas caught 3 passes, all on 3rd down, for 70 yards on FSU's game-winning touchdown drive against the Golden Bears. He converted a 3rd and 18 with a 27-yard catch, picked up 7 yards on a 3rd and 8 that led to a 4th down conversion. and his 36-yard touchdown was on 3rd and 7. So he came up. He came up big in Florida State's only FBS win this season. Part of the big issues for Florida State, they have started 9 different offensive line combinations through 11 games this season. That's the most in the country and the most by a Florida State team since 2000. 10 offensive linemen have made at least one start, the most for FSU in one season since 2019. And we all remember they had terrible offensive lines back then too, just that few years ago. And that feeds into a run game that hasn't done anything for Florida State. Lawrence Toafili is averaging 4.1 yards a carry, his longest run. Only 28 yards this season. He's only got 2 touchdowns. So, tough spot for Florida State given what we've seen so far this year. So, are they going to throw the kitchen sink at Florida? I mean, you have to think this is their bowl game. Because they're not getting one. They try to ruin Florida's late season surge here. So they throw the kitchen sink at Florida. And look, all throughout the year, they're tied for 7th nationally with 19 successful 4th down conversions this season. And Seminoles have converted at least 1 4th down in 9 games this year, including a 7-yard pass from Brock Glenn to Kyle Morlock to extend a drive that resulted in a field goal against Notre Dame. Of course, that was their only points there. So they're going to have to do this against Florida, I think. FSU converted 4 4th down attempts against both Clemson and Miami and is one of 3 P4 conference teams with at least 4 4th down conversions in multiple games this season. So that's already there. And look, they're going to have to weird this game up to win. They go for 4th down a lot. I expect to see it again on Saturday night. And look, paired with that, the only path I see for Florida State is just somehow they get more explosive plays than they should. The cheap kind of plays in those scenarios as well, where a defender falls down or goes for the pick and misses, and the wide receiver catches it and runs for a long gain. Look, they're awful. Florida State's offense is terrible. And as long as Florida plays assignment football on defense, they should really control the day or control the night. FSU is 120. I mean, talking about explosive plays right here, that's why I'm saying they would have to weird this game up because that's not something they do. FSU is 120th in plays of at least 20 yards this season, with only 36 of them. For comparison, Florida has 50 of those plays. 127th in plays of at least 30 yards, with only 13. Florida has 25 of them. FSU is 130th in plays of at least 40 yards, with only 5. Gators offense has 14 for comparison. Now, Florida's defense doesn't have the best reputation in these stats for defense. Florida is 128th in giving up plays of at least 20 yards by giving up 66 this season. But it's a bit better when you go through the next thresholds. Go to the next one in plays of at least 30 yards. Florida is 75th in the country, giving up 22 plays in that range. So a big improvement. Improvement again as Florida ranks 35th in plays given up of at least 40 yards, giving up 22 of them. So really just need to continue not giving up the back-breaking plays, try to reduce the 20, 30-yard variety, and you'll end up dominating Florida State. Going back and looking at FSU's season and kind of comparing it, last week, there's only their second win. They gained 414 yards of offense against 1-9 FCS Charleston Southern last week. Before that, they haven't even hit 300 yards of offense once this season against an FBS opponent. The highest was 291 versus Duke. And I mentioned, going back to it, their highest point total for the season versus FBS opponents was in the opener versus Georgia Tech when they scored 21. That's the only time they've scored at least 20 points all season long. I mean, the script is there. They're bad. Continue to make them be bad. Seminoles defense, not very much better. Noles have given up at least 400 yards 6 times this season, 500 yards twice. Clemson and UNC, North Carolina gained 500 yards exactly. Other games of note, SMU put 458 up on them. Miami 445, Notre Dame 453. It starts for FSU's defense, starts and ends up front. Darrell Jackson, Marvin Jones Jr., Patrick Payton, Joshua Farmer, Daniel Lyons. They can create havoc and some pressure. 15 of their 24 sacks come from that group. Their leading tackler is safety Shane Brown, and a safety being your leading tackler, sometimes that could spell a lot of doom. And the 67 tackles are 19 more than the next closest Seminole. That lets me know, look, it's not just all Brown playing in the box and making tackles. There's a lot of not good play up in front of him. So a lot of plays are coming his direction, coming his way down the field. He's making the tackles for him, but that's not a position you want to be in a whole lot of. Look, you got a Florida's offense now. This is DJ Lagway's first true road start. Of course, all those he had the starts at home. Played a good bit versus Tennessee, of course, but this is his first road start. They reduced it because he didn't miss the Texas game. Georgia's a neutral site. So first true road start. A reduced capacity Doak Campbell Stadium, Ron Zook Field. Probably a good bit of Gator fans, I think, in this as well. Should make it a much easier environment than the Tennessee environment. But still, his first true road start, so we'll have to see how he reacts, but I think it would be pretty fine. Misdirection, that's been a sore spot for Florida State and stopping the run all season long. That plays right into Billy Napier's wheelhouse, drawing up some run plays and building off of that to expand the offense in this game. Take advantage of their secondary in the big plays, but they are not good at stopping the run. I'd be shocked if Florida doesn't have success there and just builds off of it for the big plays. And Florida's offense should get the ball plenty. I think it should be just getting in the groove. I look for Florida's defense to give the offense the ball plenty of times. Get the ball back to the offense time and time again, looking for this offense to get into a groove. So, once again, I think it's going to take something weird for Florida State to pull this thing off. Something worth noting, the Seminoles are tied for third in the nation with 5 block kicks this season. Courtesy 4 field goals, 1 punt block. After blocking 1 field goal versus Cal, 1 at SMU, and 2 versus Clemson, and adding a punt block at Duke. Florida State is one of only 2 teams in the country to block at least 1 kick in 4 different games against Power 4 opponents. And its 4-game streak with at least 1 block kick between the SMU and the Duke game is the longest nationally this season. FSU's 14 block kicks under Mike Norvell are tied for 7th nationally and 2nd among P4 Power Conference programs since the start of the 2020 season. So, there you go. Like I said, this game would have to get weird. It would have to be explosive plays. It had to be them converting 4th down after 4th down after 4th down. It had to be them blocking kicks. It had to be just things like that, I think, for them to even attempt to be close for an upset here. And all in all, I don't see much weirdness going on. I think Florida puts it to Florida State. 41-13 is my prediction. It shouldn't be close. Doesn't need to be close. I'll take a win, but go make a statement. Go keep all the good mojo, keep all the good feelings. Keep that going. Keep that going. 41-13. I think the Gators just put it on the Noles. All right, there we go. Now, let's move to some recruiting. And where Florida has already been putting it to Florida State. Gator Nation, we got to commit. Running back Byron Louis from Fort Lauderdale, American Heritage. The 4-star flips from FSU and is the 3rd Seminole commit to flip to Florida in the last week and a half. Remember, quarterback Tramel Jones, offensive lineman Daniel Pierre-Louis last week, and now running back Byron Louis, who had been committed to Florida State since September. Louis checks in at 5'11", 205 pounds. The 24/7 Sports Composite ranks him as the 231st overall player in the country and the 17th running back in the country. Very similar on the On3 industry rankings as he comes in 237th overall and 16th running back in the country. So in 2024, this past season, carried the ball 157 times for 1,313 yards for an average of 8.4 yards a carry and 13 touchdowns. Longest run of the year was a 91-yarder. 17 catches for 229 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. Last season in 2023, carried 160 times for 1,224 yards, 18 touchdowns, caught 7 passes for 23 yards that year. And in 2022, carried 55 times for 439 yards and 11 touchdowns, and caught 2 passes that year for 18 yards. And in 2021, as a freshman, did get some varsity snaps at Plantation American Heritage. 6 games, totaled 186 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 28 carries. So let's get some highlights going here. And Andrew Ivins of 24/7 Sports offers this analysis. A potential workhorse between the tackles with a downhill running style that will break through the first sign of contact. Quick to pick a lane and will attack holes with vigor. Has a few long house calls on the highlight reel and can certainly find the top gear, but isn't the most elusive runner when he reaches the second level and has more success powering through defenders than he does trying to get around them. Got more and more involved in the passing attack as a senior and should be able to offer some 3-down value on Saturdays as he has built to chip large edge rushers. Effective in short yardage situations and find ways to get into the end zone when down in the red zone. Scoring 18 touchdowns as a junior while facing stout South Florida-based competition. Projects as a potential multi-year contributor at the Power 4 level that will give an offense a physical and reliable option in the backfield. Certainly just kind of sounds like a Billy Napier running back when you hear all that. So, certainly getting him from Florida State, that's very good. Taking one of their best commits here, just really rating FSU's offensive recruit so far. But as you can see here, there's your breaking tackles if you're watching the highlights there, dragging defenders for a few yards. Certainly got that physical look that I think we've come accustomed to seeing a Billy Napier running back have there, showing some nice bounce there to the edge to get some yards that he probably really shouldn't have been getting there. But yeah, I think a pretty good option here at the running back spot for Florida. And look, if there's one question or if there's one position I don't think we're going to question all that much. Yes, it'd be nice to have 5 stars at the running back spot. Don't get me wrong. And stars matter. But if there's one spot I'm not going to really question on who they want to bring in, because it's not like they're bringing in awful talent anyway. And I know there's this floating around about Jaden Ball and, some of the recent 3-stars commit Florida has, and for whatever reason, somehow got it put out there that, Jaden Ball was a 3-star, and the composite and the On3 industry rankings both had Ball as a 4-star. So I don't know where this 3-star narrative came from. Is he a 3-star in some services? Yeah, but the ones most people go by, he's a 4-star. So I don't know where it came from. But another one right here. But still, as I've said, I ain't questioning who Jabbar Jaluk wants to go get a commit from and bring into the running back room. That's just one position I'm not going to worry about. And Billy Napier's and this staff and their system that they've built running the ball, it's sustainable. And they know the type of backs they want to bring into Florida. You could feel A-okay about this. Louis coming off his official visit to Gainesville this past weekend, and he does credit the trajectory of the Florida team for a reason to flip from Florida State and his fit in Billy Napier's offense. Once again, winning matters. The trajectory matters on the recruiting trail. Yes, we all know NIL and money have a big part of it too, and in many ways more so, but still a big chunk of decisions are going to come. What does a program look like? What are they doing on the field? Still matters a whole lot. So Louis is the 3rd running back in this class and joins Waltez Clark and Chad Gasper. Gasper is coming off of injuries and may even start out as a walk-on and not contribute in 2025 as he comes back from injury. So, of course, roster construction is changing in college football, but in asking around, that may be the option here. So while bringing in 3, may only be 2 scholarships to begin with before this whole roster change, and there's no such thing as walk-ons anymore. So kind of the word that I was getting around here. So no worry about bringing 3 running backs in, as Gasper has to recover from injury anyway. So Florida now has 19 commitments in the class, in this class of 2025. It now ranks 17th in the team rankings, 20th in average recruiting ranking. The Gators rank 10th in the SEC behind Georgia, Bama, Texas, Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. And, of course, just rating FSU's offensive class. It'd be nice to steal one more in offensive lineman Solomon Thomas. That's one where we're all just looking forward, counting down the days with this early signing day next week. What is Solomon Thomas going to do? Is he going to stick with FSU? Will he flip to Florida or LSU? That just seems to be where it's at right now. And said initially he might wait till next week. Hey, do we get a decision before? We'll see. But certainly got to get that big guy and keep continuing to raid FSU's class. It would be another offensive prospect in their class that could end up in Gainesville. But Florida doing a nice job there, rebounding with this class and to the detriment of the rival Seminoles. And it's just right before the rivalry game. I mean, it heats it up a little bit more with the game on Saturday. So good stuff there on the recruiting trail. This time, 4-star running back. All right, let's get into it. Before we wrap up this episode, here we are back again. Focus on the Gators with Alex Shepard. We'll be taking a look at those beautiful images from the last game in the swamp. And Alex, man, the energy in the swamp was, the last 2 weeks is what it's supposed to feel like as a Gator fan being in that beautiful stadium there. And look, I've maintained, a lot of this fan base has just wanted something to latch onto, and the last couple of weeks have really provided that.
Yeah, it took a little while for us to get there this game. Obviously, with an early kick, some of the student section was still filing in as the game started, but the energy really built over the game because I think that what you're seeing is where we used to start at 100% energy in the crowd all the time throughout the game. We've kind of lost that excitement throughout because we know, like in the past, we've just haven't been able to hold on and pull off those big games. But as that belief builds through the game and you see, okay, we have a chance to win this. By the third and especially into the fourth quarter, the crowd was going insane. It was electric. That was, I would say, the first time this season, that was probably the loudest that it got in like the 6 minute range in the fourth quarter. So really exciting to be there. Really exciting to feel that energy again.
Yeah, it did not feel like a noon game, as you said, by the time the game got rolling, especially in that second half when the defense just started kind of dominating, it did not feel like that noon game. We'll start sharing some of these great photos there with the audience that you took during the game. And by the way, I love these helmet photos at the beginning of the game. They just kind of encapsulate it all very, 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 very well. So.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea, actually. There are a couple other photographers, Matt Pendleton, namely, who gets there early and takes photos for USA Today and various other large scale publications. And they like getting those helmet photos. And he was like, yeah, just go out there and ask the equipment guys for a helmet on each side and just go take a couple. And, I just want to shout out both teams and their equipment staffs for allowing me to grab those and bring them out there. They didn't let me wear them. I did want to throw one on and run around a little bit, but they didn't let me do that. But it was really cool to have that moment, especially last week and this week to do that.
And it's funny, it doesn't show up in these photos and it doesn't show up on TV either. But if you get really close to a Florida Gator helmet, there are blue glitter specks in the helmet. And it doesn't come across on TV at all. No. But if you're up there really close, you see it. I don't know if a lot of people really know that about Florida's helmet, but it looks orange. It looks like a flat orange, but you get close to the helmet, there's blue glitter specks in it.
That's true. That is accurate. Yeah. I can confirm.
Maybe we'll get that detail one day so people don't think we're lying.
Yeah, no, maybe next season or something like that. Or maybe at the bowl game, I'll ask for one or I'll get you like a macro shot. Just really zoomed in. Yeah.
And of course, Alex, the big part of this game, of course, senior day, and we'll get to these photos there, but you can really tell how much it meant to Billy Napier. Some of these players that really came out, and some of the players that have meant a whole lot to this program the last few years. I forget Nick Savage back in the swamp too. I kind of forgot about that till you took the photo.
I didn't know either. When he walked by, I was having a double take. Like, wait a minute, is this guy really on the staff? Because I thought he was a great strength and conditioning coordinator. I missed him, and I think he was somebody that should have been retained. But seeing him there brought back a lot of memories of just that loud, growling voice that he had that really echoed through the practices. You knew where he was at all times. So it was good to see him back in here.
Yeah. Like I knew he was on staff, but I completely forgot about it till you had the photo there. So, and there we go, Princely right there in the other tunnel, and we all know what happened after the game. But
yeah, that's the same tunnel that I think he ran out of to go find the fans. Same tunnel.
same one. But certainly there, of course, Lane in the swamp, Badger in his last game. But as we said, we got to senior day in the swamp, and I'm glad you were able to capture those moments. I saw you right there. Yeah, I think you were like almost back up against one of the little pyrotechnic things that Florida has right there taking the photos. So.
Yeah, I was in front of it closer to where Billy was, and the UF photographers, they have priority over us because they have shots that are like mandatory for the school. And then I backed up on the other side between the fire and the what are those called with the fog or the whatever. I was between those, kind of just crammed in there, and ended up being a really good spot.
Yeah. So really good photos here. And as I said, and Will and I talked about it on the last episode. It was great, like, Chimmery DK here. I've already saw Elijah Badger too, Des Watson. And
by the way, really quick, go back to the Des Watson and the DK ones, because the distance between me and the player and the coach did not change. Just to give people an idea of the size difference between these two. You can see Billy Napier is like the same size. It's the other guys. I just had to point that out. I knew we were going to talk about it.
But I brought it up. All these guys. Montreal, of course, you could tell in Billy Napier's post-game press conference how much Montreal Johnson meant to him, coming from Louisiana all the way to Gainesville with him too. And of course, Graham Mertz, and unfortunately not being able to play and in his final season here in Gainesville. But you could really tell how much this moment meant for a lot of the players, but for Billy Napier. And like I said in the last episode, it was great because a lot of these guys that played in this game and went through this tunnel for the last time made impact plays in this game.
Absolutely. I mean, the next photo that you're going to click over to is probably my favorite of all, that one right there. Because Graham, when he was recruited in, you went on Twitter and everyone was saying, what are we doing? Why are we getting this guy? He doesn't seem like he's going to be a great player. And 2 years later, he comes in here. He has one of the best touchdown to interception ratios, may not have the yardage that we wanted, but he was an incredible leader on the field, off the field. And he was really who set that standard for Billy and his team, along with Montrell, guys who had been with Billy all 4 years of their time in college. And so it was great to see Badger make some big plays. Mertz obviously has played a huge role in mentoring DJ Lagway, and that's starting to show. And then, of course, Montrell, and we'll get to the image later, but, his game-sealing touchdown at the end, it was just really nice to see, because those people were at the heart of the whole, playing for their coach kind of guy. They believe in the logo, they believe in their coach, and the fact that they got the payoff in their last game in the swamp was really, really moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have some contributions in this game there. And hey, it was great seeing Major Wright. And I said it in the post game. I was like, it was only fitting that Florida secondary was just laying the wood this game, because this guy right here leading 2 bits, and then to see that secondary right there, just lay hits over and over again in this game. It just fit. It just fit.
It felt right, and Major Wright reached out to me after the game.
It felt Major Wright.
It felt really major right. That was good. But he reached out to me after the game. He was like, dude, can you give me that photo? Because the next one is him doing the backflip. Yeah. That one. And he saw that on Twitter and was like, dude, can you email that to me? I'm going to post it and tag you. But I mean, it definitely felt reminiscent of that Oklahoma hit that he is so, famous for. And, not a body within 10 yards. And then Major Wright come flying in the side of the shot and just laying guys out. And he had Castell with that massive hit where he just stood there and looked over the guy. And that moment felt so much like that hit some, 14, 15 years ago, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
And so great to see him back out there. He's obviously still got it. He's still if I tried to do that, you'd find me with a broken neck. And I'm younger than him, I'm pretty sure, but
hey, it's really only cool right for all the flips Florida's getting too on the recruiting trail.
You know what? That's a great metaphor right there. We should start using that as our flip image, because it's accurate. Yeah.
I put one on Twitter of me doing a backflip on a trampoline. I can't do it on.
I saw that. See, even you got more athletics than me, and you're only a couple years older than me.
I was a magician on the trampoline at 13 years old, by the way. So
Wait, what?
I mean, not like, the one I shared, it was like a birthday party for nephews. They wanted to do like a little gymnastics place or whatever. But like in the backyard trampoline, oh man, I was backflipping.
Are you tearing it up?
They're tearing it up, man. Yeah, two
Man.
backflips in the air at one time.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that you learn something new every day.
Yeah, there we
Wow.
go. Wrestling on a trampoline, flips on a trampoline. Trampoline was that was my hangout.
Wow. Okay.
Growing
Well,
up.
I mean, I'm learning something new about you every day, so good to know.
Good stuff. Alex, go back to this game before we move forward a little bit. What was your biggest takeaways for each side of the ball? I mean, like I said, Ole Miss coming into town, they were riding high after the Georgia win, had a bye week to get everything together. College football playoff on the line for them, and Florida wins by 7. What was your takeaways from each side of the ball?
Well, I mean, you have to start with the defense, right? I mean, they have been playing outside of the Texas game, which, you can argue was, kind of a fluke given that we didn't really have the offense and they were on the field so much. They've just been playing incredibly well. I mean, you're talking about dominance from the D line, from linebackers. The one thing that we're seeing as a trend, I mean, the DBs are playing a lot better. They're tackling really well.
Yeah.
But we're still seeing them get beat over the top in every game. We need to make sure that gets cleaned up, because I will say for FSU, we don't want to sleep on this game. They obviously want to, have something good to take away from their season. We've been flipping their commits. It's been talking down on them all season. We don't want to overlook that. And so they're obviously going to try and throw it deep and get those big shot plays. And 2 weeks in a row, if you include Texas, 3 weeks, the other teams have been consistently able to throw deep. So we need to make sure that, here's one of them, this image that's on the screen for those who are able to see it. So we need to make sure that those safeties are, playing back and not allowing those deep shots, because when that doesn't happen, we're able to stop these teams from moving the ball and moving the ball as ball shows up on screen. So defensively playing really well. Just got to make sure that we clean up the stuff over the top. Offensively, I mean, same thing that I talked to you about last week. Lagway obviously does a lot of special things and is a special player, and that goes without saying. We got to clean up some of the small accuracy things, and hopefully he can be 100% where he can run the ball a little bit at FSU. But a lot of special guys, a lot of seniority around him that I think has benefited him with Badger and DK. I'm intrigued to see next year who his go-to guys are going to be. Does Ray Wilson come back and provide that kind of explosive role, or do we have to go in the portal and pick up some other guys just like DK and Badger to supplement that? So the running game looked really good. I think we continue to see improvement there. I like the fact that we're rotating guys, keeping Baugh, Jackson, Trell, all of them fresh. I wish we would see more of Baugh. I think everyone would agree there, just because it feels like there's a lot of raw talent there. But yeah. So by the way, that last picture that was close to a block.
I know. I was watching it from the press box, and I was like, was that as close as I thought it might? And
I think it might have touched him. Yeah.
Then I saw your picture, and I was like, it was as close as I thought it was.
Yeah. I was going to talk to you about that, because it was very close, because I don't think we've had a blocked field goal in like 3-4 years or something, it feels like, but I could be remembering incorrectly. It's just very close to a block. Is that Cersei 19?
Yep.
He was trying. He was putting his hand up. He's a little off center, but.
And then, do you see Banks there? Just imagine if Banks would have added that to his repertoire of the last couple of weeks.
Well, so he's actually been jumping. He's been clearing guys and jumping over the line and not touching it. And that's like the second or third week in a row I've seen him jump over the line and almost get a block. So he's due. I think he might get one this weekend. We'll see. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Maybe he won't, because I don't even want FSU to cross the 50. I don't even want an attempted field goal. I don't want anything. I
wouldn't mind it. I would not mind that whatsoever. And there's Big Dez just like basically throwing a guy with one hand with the help of I can't even tell who that is. That Moten?
Yeah. Yep.
I think it's 16. Yeah. I'm gonna miss Dez, man. I think he's just such a unique player. It's gonna be sad seeing him go.
Yeah, not the stat machine, but opens up a lot for these linebackers, these other guys. That's what his role was this game. Will and I talked about it. He was getting double teamed a lot, eating up 2 offensive linemen so other guys can make plays. And, great to see there. And I mean, this defensive line, I mean, certainly very opportunistic, has just dominated the second half of both the last games against LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, like I said, very opportunistic, helping lead the turnovers. Great to see. And it's been the trenches have come a long way since Miami and Texas A&M. Both the offensive line, both the defensive line have really come a long way to really, could they be better? Sure. But Florida's winning games right now because both those position groups have taken steps.
Yeah, and again, let's go back to, people were talking about Mertz coming out of the portal and being like, who's this guy? But then we were also, when they hired Gerald Chapman, everyone was going, yeah, who the heck is this guy? And why are we not hiring somebody with, bigger experience? And obviously he's making an impact. The line's playing really well. The linebackers are playing really well. Same thing with the O-line and Rob Sale. A lot of people were not happy with him last year, and he's improved slowly. And it seems like they're showing improvement. And we love to see a solid trench game in the swamp and for Florida football, because it's been severely lacking over the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, if people are watching on YouTube now, I know we get to the series here of Montrell Johnson just taking over this one drive late in the series. And as I said, to me, there was nobody better. I know we talked about Senior Day just a second ago, but there was nobody better for me to cap this game off than Montrell Johnson. Trusting Billy Napier to come from Louisiana to Florida. Had a tough go of it this year because of all the injuries. He's finally been healthy, finally able to play now. And then, his last game in the swamp, able to put a bow on the game.
Yeah, I mean, really, I agree completely. There's nobody more deserving. He's been with Billy his whole tenure in college and followed him here and trusted that he was going to utilize him in a way that benefited him in his career. And he's been a great leader on and off the field, just like Mertz. And I think that that's the kind of guy that, Billy really wants here. A guy who is not only going to be a good player, but a good person on and off the field. We spoke about that weeks ago. Even when we were questioning Napier's future here, we were saying, you know what, he's a great guy and he likes the guys that play well on and off the field, but you just got to clean up a couple things. And Trell has just absolutely been that guy. I'm going to miss seeing him in the orange and blue. He's been a key factor in a lot of our successes. And I hope that he gets a chance in the NFL, because they'd be getting a really good guy and a good player.
Yeah, one of my favorite players Billy Napier's brought in there. Late turnovers. Bryce Thornton with the pick, multiple interceptions here by Bryce Thornton to put the game away. SEC Player of the Week as well on the defensive side of the ball for the Gators. Just a way to end it. Sharif Denson with a big hit.
I love that one. That was one of my favorite shots, because I had just switched in the one where he was having the pick. I had switched to a short lens. I put this on Twitter because I wanted to get the handshake at the end, and I'm not like these other big time photographers where I have 3 different cameras, one big lens, one little lens, and I could swap. I had to run back and swap to a short lens, so it was fixed. And I got the interception, and then the guy is stiff on the ground there, and you have the ref saying incomplete, and Denson just staring him down like, you better not call a targeting on me, man. I laid him out. Don't you dare call a targeting. He held that pose for a couple seconds. So that was one of my favorite shots of the end of the game.
Yeah, putting it together late, and then jubilation right here for Jabbar Jaluk. You could just really tell Florida excited, and there's the handshake. Everybody kind of waiting for it because of all the Lane Kiffin talk all season long, and maybe a possibility to Florida. And of course, that's not happening now. Florida moving forward, and Billy Napier putting that one to rest. And then after the game, a lot of fun to be had there on the sideline, and certainly glad you were able to capture these moments. And certainly the ones that catch everybody's attention is all the dunks on the Ole Miss sideline, and did a great job of just capturing so many players, good and coaches, by the way.
They were all so hyped. If you go back one image to the one that Badger did, I was having trouble getting around everybody to take this picture, so I got under the hoop and I got hit square in the face with that ball. I was not ready for it, and I thought I was in a safe spot, but he threw that there, and you can see the trajectory. He's coming right at me, and sure enough, it caught me right in the forehead. But yeah, it was really cool to see that energy. I heard multiple guys after the game walking around saying, man, this just feels so good, man, and just being so hyped. And this is obviously, an exciting moment for the team, and to get, Coach DeLuke out there. I showed it to him after the game. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you gotta post that. You gotta put it on Twitter." And I did, and he gave me a follow, which was nice. But super excited for our coaches, for our players. They really deserve this win with all the stuff that they have been through this season.
Yeah,
they really do deserve to let loose a little bit and have fun.
Absolutely. And last one there, Billy Napier coming into the tunnel there. And as you and I have said, it's that tunnel has not been too friendly to Billy Napier toward the beginning of the season. It was ugly after Miami. It was ugly after Texas A&M. The last couple of games, last couple of weeks, certainly deserving of all the kudos that he was heading in that tunnel. This time, the last home game in the Swamp for 2024.
Yeah, they were chanting his name. And, we're talking 6 weeks ago. They were chanting for him to be fired and booing him. And he said it himself in the best words, that they love you when you win, they hate you when you lose.
And even said, look, he understood the criticism too, though. Like there was accountability.
Well, yeah.
There was like,
you like hearing that.
We deserved it. That's what he said. And it was up to them to change the narrative.
Yeah, and you know what? I guarantee you put Dan Mullen in that situation, you ask him that question, he has an answer that just infuriates Florida fans. Because Billy, we've said it since the beginning that he's a great person, and it's encouraging to hear that he understands that this is not the standard. The standard is not
and we did get that from Mullen for one time. I remember now that you go to it. I remember him saying, "Well, that's your narrative." Sorry, that was actually the result.
Yeah, so it's literally the result. And we've had the whole like we won the scoreboard or the box score or whatever. I mean, Billy's not that kind of guy. He's not here to take all the moral victories. He gets that it's not the standard. Next season, he knows what's on the line. He needs to win 9+ games to get a vote of confidence from the Gator fans. But he took accountability. He said what he needed to say. We go into FSU with some confidence. We need to not sleep on that team and make sure that we put them to rest and, hopefully put up, beat them by 25, 30 points to make a statement going into bowl season and then in the off season. But glad to hear the accountability. Glad to hear that he is owning up to the fact that this is not the standard to be set, and that moving forward, he will hopefully turn it around.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, man, hey, thanks. Great. As you said, maybe a bowl game there, but all the home games, Florida, Georgia as well. You nailed the photos, dude. Glad to work with you this year and show them off right here on Gators Breakdown too. Share them on Twitter as well. Great job. I mean, and thankfully, even for you too, being on that field in the last couple of weeks, being able to enjoy bringing in and seeing the joy from the players, the fan base. And look, it makes our job easier as well when Florida is winning. The fan in me first, I was like, at least we get to have some fun.
Oh man, it's 100% true. We are Gator fans at heart, you and I. I've talked about it, I think, on the first podcast I was with you on. I'm a 4th generation Gator. It goes back to my great grandmother who attended Florida. And it means a lot to me. This team means a lot to me. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's a bigger Gator fan than I am. And when you're down there and you're having to take photos, I mean, literally document your team getting smoked. It's not very fun. Nor does anyone want to see your photos after a game to remind them of said getting smoked. But whenever we do win and we're pulling off these big games and you're seeing an energized crowd, and it almost brings back that childish excitement of when I was in the Swamp as a 5-year-old watching the Gators beat FSU and the intensity. So it was very exciting to be around that again. It's great to see us being successful, and hopefully we can carry that into to bowl season and next season as well.
Absolutely. One more time, Alex Shepard, his photography there at Agent Shep on Twitter. If you want to reach out to him, can take some personal photos and get all that. And Alex, I know you said it slowed down a little bit because of the holidays, but we'll keep it out there as well after the new year. But let everybody know where they can find you if they're looking for a home place to live right here in the Jacksonville area.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that about me other than the people who listen here, but I'm actually a realtor in Jacksonville. That's my main job. I do the photos as a fun side gig. I like to go and be around the university and the atmosphere. And of course, I like to be around Dave and all the other beat writers, because we have a great contingent of beat writers. But real estate's my main gig here in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, Yulee, St. Johns County. So if you are interested in maybe making a move over to the 904 to be around us cool people over here, reach out to me on Twitter. You can also email me at alex.shepard. You can see my name spelled here, SHEPHERD, at FloridaNetworkRealty.com. Happy to answer your questions and buy you a drink over here in Jacksonville whenever you make your move.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And that'll do it for the home season finale right here. Focus on the Gators with Alex Shepard. All right, that'll do it for another jam-packed episode of Gators Breakdown. Florida State on Saturday. Let's go Gators and put a good bow to the end of this season. We'll figure out where the bowl game would be, but it'd be a little bit better after a win versus Florida State. So let's keep that momentum up and let's have some more good news to talk about. Big thanks to Alex there one more time. Those beautiful images that he's been bringing to us all season long. But that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.